Hello everyone, I'm Zahid from Talks at Innovation Valley, and today we have very amazing guest with us, Anna Queiroz. Anna Queiroz is a postdoctoral researcher at Stanford University. She holds a Ph.D. and a master's in cognitive psychology and certificates in business, behavioral medicine, and education. Anna's research focuses on virtual reality and technology's cognitive and affective implications on learning, education, and workforce training. She has been actively working in education since 2005, teaching and conducting social impact and research projects in US, Europe, and Latin America. Her work has been informing researchers, governments, and the industry on the use of immersive media for learning and education. So first of all, I really warm welcome you.
Thank you, Zahid. It's a great pleasure to be here with you today discussing such an interesting topic.
You are welcome. Anna, before we jump to the topic and questions list, uh, my audience and I would love to know your story and your journey so far. I mean, from where you got your education,
Mm.
when you started your professional career, and when you joined the immersive space, and how was all this entrepreneurial and inspirational journey so far?
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Zahid. So stay seated. It's a long story. So when I was graduating from psychology college, I was interested in human resources training. So I started up some companies focused on immersive training back then, but it's many, many years ago where VR was not commercially available. So what I was doing was putting everyone together in some rooms and manipulating sounds, scent, having actors to trigger emotions. And then we could work on those emotions to develop leadership, communication, teamwork. And since then, I've been very interested on how we learn and the cognitive processes of learning. And when I was in my master's, so I was teaching at a university and teaching psychology, human resources, entrepreneurship, because of the companies I've founded in the past, I got into more interested in education. So VR came to play. Like I started to see VR popping up, and people started to have VR on their homes, and I was sure that would hit education and workforce training very, very hard. So that's when I decided to pursue a more deep research on that area, focusing on immersive technologies. And since then, I've been working at Stanford at the Virtual Human Interaction Lab, where I lead the educational efforts, and at the Stanford Accelerator for Learning, where I'm leading studies focused on workforce training using immersive technologies.
All right, very amazing and inspirational journey, Anna. And Anna, first of all, I would love to ask, there are a lot of immersive technologies. I mean, we are listening virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality. I don't remember the other terminologies, extended reality, etc. So can you please elaborate a little bit what actually immersive technology is, and what kind of technologies come under this heading of immersive technologies, and also give some of the gadget examples and device examples, like HoloLens, VR headset, etc.
Yeah. So we have different types of technologies that can extend the reality. So that's why the term extended realities. So, for example, if you want to augment the environment you already um, are, so you can have some glasses, and then those glasses can project digital content overlaid to your real environment. So those are the augmented reality devices, right? If you can still see your real environment, have these digital layers, and you can manipulate them, Usually we call that mixed reality devices. Those are for example, the HoloLens from Microsoft. And when you block your real environment with headsets, and you can replace this real environment for digital content that is refreshed according to your head movements and your body movements around. So this is virtual reality and the virtual reality headsets. And there are several companies developing great equipment for that, like Meta. Apple just released the Vision Pro. That's also a mixed reality, because now what we are seeing is those devices, they are blending to only one device. It doesn't make sense to have one that you can see your real environment and enrich that with digital content, and another that blocks everything and then replaces with digital content. You can have everything in the same device. So that's what we are seeing that's happening now.
All right. So, Anna, how do you see immersive technologies such as virtual reality and augmented reality is impacting education, for example, learning, teaching, and training, etc.?
Yeah, so the impact is very important. I used to say that right now, VR in education looks like computers in education, maybe two decades ago, 20 years ago, where some schools, they have like a lab or they have a cart with VR headsets that teachers can book and can use. The same thing 20 years ago in schools, where they had like this cart of computers or a lab with computers. And as time passed, people are also having VR headsets at home, getting more familiar with the technology, and as soon we're going to have faster adoption of this technology in the classroom. And why is that happening? Because VR has one unique feature that is replacing the real environment by the virtual environment. After some minutes, our brain starts to understand the virtual environment as real and trigger physiological responses as it was real. So can you imagine how powerful it is? We can place students in any type of situation that we want them to feel connected with. So for example, here at Stanford, I conduct several research based on climate change education, science education, and we can use simulations where students, they can feel for example, how the ocean will look like in some years if we do not reduce CO2 emissions. So the connection with the content becomes stronger. You trigger emotions, and we know that for learning, this is an important component to be connected. And also, we have been finding from several studies that I've been conducting that when we compare VR to other media, students that have the VR experience, they feel more confident about their learning. They feel that they are more able to learn after having the experience.
All right. Anna, how do you think businesses can use immersive technologies for better customer experience and for example, for employees training, etc., or for other things? What is the application of immersive technologies in the business and industry sector?
Yeah, so many companies are already using immersive technology for workforce training. So, for example, one of the studies we are conducting right now is using immersive technologies to develop better leadership skills, because you can simulate any kind of situation with employees in the company. So that's the most relevant aspect of VR and immersive technologies. You can place people in a simulated environment and they feel as that was real. So if you think about, for example, marketing, you can create very interesting experiences in VR and put your customers on them, for example. When we talk about workforce training, you can simulate situations that they will face during their work, and that you want to prepare them beforehand.
All right. And now, what are the standard requirements for implementation of immersive technologies in, for example, schools, colleges, and universities?
Well, first you have to have a team that's interested in having the immersive technology in their organizations. So I work with several schools in the US, Europe, Canada, Latin America, and usually the teachers are the ones contacting me and saying, well, I teach, for example, I teach science, and I think VR would be a great addition to my practice here at school. How can we do it? And then we will work together on exactly what they expect for the technology to bring to their class, and then work together on how we can implement that in the curriculum. And after that, we find what type of experiences would fit their needs, if they want to develop content, if they want to teach their students to develop content. So some schools are at that point already where high school students are developing VR and AR, learning how the technology works. So, and usually we have a multidisciplinary team. So we have teachers from science, from arts, language, math, chemistry, physics, all working together and finding which experiences will attend their learning goals.
All right. Anna, what is the difference between virtual reality and augmented reality? One thing more, some people say since headsets are expensive enough to provide to the students in enough quantity, so is it possible, for example, with the augmented reality, that without headsets students still could learn via through immersive technologies?
Yes, of course. They are just different technologies that provide different learning settings for the students, but they all can help and have been shown to improve learning. So, for example, imagine that you are on a field trip to a forest, and your students, they want to ask questions, right? They are curious about what type of trees they're seeing, what the species of some plants they are exploring over there. You are already in a very rich environment. So you don't need a VR headset to replace that environment. What you want is to augment that experience. So you can have augmented reality over there where they can, target a plant, and then it will pop up more information about that plant, for example, that species, and so on, how the system works on that forest, and so on. But if you are, for example, in the classroom, and I usually work also with schools in very low income communities where the students they don't leave that area often, right? So if they are very in the middle of the country, and it's, for example, Brazil that has a large coast, most of them won't visit the ocean, have never seen the ocean. So I can bring them an experience showing how the ocean looks like in VR, where they are going to feel that they are over there under the water, for example. So it depends on your learning goal and what type of activity you want to bring them. So AR really enriches the environment you are already in, and that you want to explore that environment in more details. VR is when you have an environment that's your regular environment, and you want to bring a completely new environment to be explored digitally.
All right, I would little bit dig down a little bit more, and would love to know a little bit more. Let me give two examples. I know two companies. One company is providing a very good science labs in virtual reality by using headsets. For example, if students want to learn about the anatomy of the human, so
Mhm.
they would be wearing the headsets, and they are seeing all the organs like brain and heart and everything and lungs, very good 360 view, and they can touch They can go inside that organ. That's one thing. Second, there is another company. They say you don't need headsets. You can simply view that content on 360 mod, kind of, uh, simply on the laptop or tab, or I mean iPad or mobile phone.
Mm-hmm.
So the company which is making students experience the content by using headset, is that virtual reality, and the content that is used without headset, that is augmented reality technology, or is that the difference?
Yeah, and here you are giving an example, for example, for anatomy learning. You have an object. You don't
Mhm.
need that 360-degree sphere to learn anatomy, right? You have an object that fits, like a monitor, for example, or this projection device, would say, put that way, you know. So you can use that on an iPad. You don't need to trigger emotions to memorize, for example, the name of the bones and the muscles. So for that case, AR or VR, they both work pretty well. You don't need to spend a lot of money on a high-end headset to learn that. But for example, if you wanna students to feel how the ocean looks like, if CO2 increases too much and ocean acidification increases the pH of the water and marine life dies, and you want them to feel how it would be, then a 360-degree view where they can explore and then take advantage of this field of view helps. So then we would recommend having VR is a more rich experience than watching the same content on a monitor, for example. So everything depends. So that's what I work with the teachers in schools. Everything depends on the learning goal, the topic, the content of what it's intended to be to learn with the experience. So every technology has pros and cons. Some are more expensive, some you can explore more, some are more portable, we'll have a larger access, more students can have access to it. So it's very unique cases for each school.
All right. Anna, for which subjects and for which domains and industries immersive technology is the best solution for training?
For training, so again, it depends on the training. For example, for medical training, several universities, hospitals have been using VR, as the example you gave, for anatomy, for surgery training, and even for this conversation training, the patient and doctor relationship, developing soft skills related to that, they are using VR. So this is one example. Uh, in the car industry, to prototyping, simulating environments, testing the prototypes in simulated environments, they are also using VR. For training the workforce, example in retail, how to greet a client, how to organize a store. You don't need to close the store to train them how to do that. That's how it used to be before. So after hours, you would have the new employees in the store learning how to do it, and you had to have another employee teaching them. Now you can have a VR headset on the back of the store, while they can just put the VR headset and train how to organize the store, for example, or how to react in the case of, you know, um, different situations in the store, like clients that are mad, how you handle that, this kind of thing.
All right. Anna, when we talk about the implementation of immersive technologies at school level or college level, or specifically in the school level, or in general in the education space, uh, for which level and grades it gives best results and experience? For example, can we do learning through immersive technologies from the very age of 6, 7, or 8 years old child, or is there any recommendation by the experts that no, by immersive technologies it should be started from this age?
Yeah, usually we target high schools students and middle school students. Elementary school, usually the VR headsets are not. Um, they can use other technologies. We can use AI. They can use a tablet. They can use a mobile phone to enrich the virtual environment, and of course, they can have short experiences in VR. The only thing is, we don't want those kids to be for longer periods because the headset was designed for adults, right? So it's heavy for them. So we just want them to go through short experiences. And middle school and high school students, then we use it for maybe a little bit longer, but always we have this rule of thumb of being around 10 minutes experiences. If it's a learning experience, you're receiving a lot of information. You have the visuals, you have the narration, you are exploring. So we don't want them to stay long experience because they're going to get tired, and then learning is not the same. For social VR experiences, then, for example, with high school students, we can put all of them together in the same VR environment. So imagine that we both right now could be in a VR environment. I would see your avatar, you would see my avatar, and we would explore together an environment. That's something that's very interesting. It helps to connect students from different countries, different cultures, to work together in learning. And a recent study I just published, we found that having these collaborative tasks in VR increases learning when compared to not having the collaborative tasks or just receiving the narrative in VR. So for that, we can have high schoolers, we can have higher education students as well.
All right. uh when we talk on the, you mentioned about the avatar. So see, until now, when I see the avatars are like cartoons, they
Mhm.
have any like face. So right now, is it started that anybody could use the immersive technology and immersive experience, and the avatar would be just like the copy of that certain human being? I mean, the ditto copy of the human being.
Mhm.
So is that possible, and that is happening now?
It is possible. The only thing it requires a lot of computer processing to make
Mhm.
that image, so to make a very realistic avatar, you have the definition requires a lot of computer processing, and every move you do, and all this, it requires refreshing of so many points of your body, that it requires a good computer to have that done. So it makes that even more expensive. So that's why you see cartoons, because it's less computer demanding, computing demanding for that, and it can be in real time, very fast, refreshed according to your movements. But technology evolves so fast. We are going to see that improvements on avatars very, very often.
Okay, Anna, some people, once I visited a university that is basically a management university. They provide um, programs in business and technology. Are you getting me?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay. So I was asking, once I visited a university, they provide programs in business, management, and technology. I met with the some of the members from the top management, and they were asking, until now, we could not understand that how we would apply immersive technologies in the university, for example, for the management sciences, for the technology learning, and for the business learning. So, can you exemplify uh, how business students, management students, and technology students can use immersive technologies
Mhm.
to learn, or how teachers can use that? For example, if they want to teach, let's say, uh, financial management, what would be the use of immersive technology in that case?
Differential management, you mean?
Financial management, for
Instrument.
example.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So for financial management, for example, you can simulate pretty much, chain of decisions. So you can be like in VR, like you really embody that you're um, manager, you have a team, you have to coordinate, so you have to make decisions with them, you meet with people, and then you can see the consequences of the decisions that you're um, making in VR. You can have visualizations of the data, you can have simulations of how the company is going, for example. But for me, the strongest case in business is training soft skills. So because we want to use VR for situations where the real situation would be either impossible or is too expensive. And for example, if you're a manager and you have to conduct performance reviews, conversations. Sometimes they go easily, but sometimes it's very difficult. Sometimes you know that the employee in front of you is already, working hard, but for some reason is not achieving the results that the team needs. And then you have to provide this feedback and react to their reaction. And the best way to do that is on an empathetic way. But where did you learn that? Where do we learn soft skills? We don't learn that at school. Schools are focused on content, not that much on social emotional learning. It's something that started in the last years. When you join a company, you just watch those videos, the boarding, when you are onboarding the company, all those videos about harassment, about ethics, and those kind of things that sometimes they feel a little bit disconnected with you. Um, in VR, you can actually put your manager in a situation where they will interact with someone and have to deal with that, on an empathetic way, for example. So that's the strongest case for me for VR in the companies, because who works in HR, they know that how you hire people from their technical knowledge, but you fire them because of their behavior most often. So if you can train the behavior, if you can train soft skills, and then you need to connect that with emotions, because usually when you are having those conversations, when you are making decisions, emotions, they play a role on that. And VR is different from the other technologies because it can tap into that.
All right. Anna, I, for example, let's say a tutor, a teacher is teaching maths on Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
and one teacher is teaching maths in immersive space by using maybe VR headset, or maybe on the VR content by using a tab. So, what is the difference between teaching maths on the Zoom and in the VR headset?
So if the teacher in the VR headset is just an avatar talking with the students, there is no difference, right? It's just,
Okay.
and the both environments, they are not exploring anything, they are just listening.
Okay.
If in VR they can explore the environment, and if that exploration is connected to the learning, the math that they need to learn. For example, if they can, very simple example, okay, if they are learning addition, okay, 2 plus 2, and they can, with their hands, get 2 blocks here, 2 blocks here, put together and see 4. then it's more enriching than just learning, listening to a teacher saying, okay, 2 plus 2 is 4, right? So that's the thing. When you are in VR, you want to explore what VR has to offer. That's the interaction, that's the 360-degree sphere. And the learning there is influenced by that. So you really want to take advantage of that. You don't want to put people in VR to just listening, to be listening, right? You want them to interact, you want them to explore the environment.
I will add one more example actually, because this question is too much in the market. One teacher is teaching computer science on the VR headset, and one is teaching on the Zoom. Both are doing what? They both are showing students the internal organs of the computer, for example, RAM, hard drive, or maybe they are showing the processor, or maybe they are showing some programming sheets. So in
Mhm,
both cases, they are showing something.
mhm.
So what is the difference?
So if in VR you can let them manipulate them, manipulate the hardware pieces, for example, they can assemble the computer, for example, then you're providing them a richer experience, right? Because they are testing what they are learning on site.
Mhm.
While on Zoom, they are just seeing and they have little control over what's going on. So, on my studies that I've been finding that participants in VR, they report higher self-efficacy. That's how much they feel that they are able to learn. It's related to their confidence on learning. It's related to this agency that VR brings. So in VR, they feel that they are acting during their learning. They select where they are looking for, exploring, looking at, exploring. And that's the difference. And we know from many years of research that self-efficacy is correlated with student performance, even career choices in the future, career performance. So that's an important aspect of learning.
All right. Anna, when we talk about learning or teaching, there is something very important called curriculum, syllabus, content. So, if I ask you, which headsets would you like to recommend to the educators, for example? I don't know if you would say Oculus or I don't know. And okay, one institution gets headsets, but what about the curriculum and content? From where they will get content for that
Mhm.
gadget?
Yeah, so there are several companies developing content right now. Some of them are focused on K-12 education, some of them are focused on medical education. So there are several of them. It increased a lot in the last years. So they have to look for those experiences that are available on the market and see if they fit their needs. If they don't, they can choose to develop experiences. Then it's another route, it's more expensive, it takes more time, but it really targets their need. So there is always this balance between looking for what is on the market and then, for example, if you watch a 360-degree video that is there online on YouTube 360 and you find that great, like the topic is amazing. So for example, one of our experiences over there, Coral Compass, it talks about ocean acidification, tourism impacts on the ocean, and government actions to mitigate those impacts on the ocean. And if you are teaching about that, you want to teach students about, wow, what the community, how to engage the community on climate change, on ocean preservation or conservation, for example, you can select that video. It's a 6 minutes video. Have the students go through it and keep the discussion after. Because one of the things we know is that after VR, participants usually are more interested. They ask more questions. They engage more with the content. So it's part of a planning. They plan several lessons, and then they select, well, here I will have this VR experience, here I will have that other one that's from another developer, another company, to teach this specific topic. Then I will develop my own because I couldn't find anything that fits exactly what I want.
All right. And there are learning models. For example, on campus, online, and now we are adding one more methodology. It could be maybe online or on campus, but we are adding immersive technology and immersive space. So when we talk on holistic learning, uh, right now and in the future, which model do you think is or would be the best? Just online, just on site, online with immersive technologies, on campus with immersive technologies, or online plus offline with immersive technologies? So how do you see the model, and
Yeah.
how to balance it? How percentage? This percent physical, this percent online, this percent immersive technologies. How?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I'm very cautious to talk about what's the best one because, for example, you can have a teacher in your school that is so great. It's a fantastic teacher that students learn so much that any other technology would overcome. How these students learned with that specific teacher, but what we have to think is more, as you mentioned, like a more holistic way, like in more in a big picture. So, for example, if I want to connect students from different areas, geographic areas, I can do that using Zoom, or I can do that using VR if I want them to feel more in the same environment, more connected, present. So presence is a concept that we use a lot in the immersive research. That's the feeling that you are there. So remember, I mentioned like after some minutes, your brain starts to understand the virtual environment as real, and then you start to feel that you are there. So that's the feeling of presence. So that is important for learning, and you have people spread across different areas, geographic areas, then VR for sure will be better than just having a Zoom, right? But if for what they are learning, being together and working physically in the same object, building something together. So, for example, a physics experiment with objects, then you want them together, not in VR. But they can build uh, the real object together. They can use augmented reality to guide this assembling process, and they can test that object in VR. So they can create simulations in VR. So you enrich the experience with each technology. The percentages, it all depends on the topic. It all depends on the teacher planning that lesson. It depends on the activities that are going to be done in person and the ones being done in VR.
All right. Anna, where do you keep HoloLens? I mean, HoloLens use like the virtual reality or augmented reality or mixed reality, or what kind of technologies HoloLens actually use
Yeah, we
to
consider this a mixed reality device, right? So it
Mhm.
doesn't block your real environment. When you put the headset on, the HoloLens on, you still see everything that's around you, but you have those lenses that will um, inc- bring a digital layer for your real environment. And then you can manipulate those digital objects through your hands and signs, right? So, this one type of device that helps, uh, for example, let's imagine you work on an assembly line and you have to know where to place each piece when you are for example assembling furniture. You don't want to stop everything, check on the manuals, the papers, and then go back. You can have just the headset on you, and then you click which kind of piece you need to place now, and it will show you where to place that piece, for example. So one case in business that you can use HoloLens that has been used a lot, actually.
All right. Anna, we have been listening this terminology like the metaverse for last couple
Mm-hmm.
of years. Too much metaverse, metaverse, and metaverse. Especially since Facebook rebranded their company and restructured their company and called Meta.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is actually metaverse? Can you please define it? And what is the scope of metaverse? And what is that when we say learning in the metaverse or teaching in the metaverse?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the metaverse is like the word says, like it's an universe in a matter environment, right? So you can go beyond the geographical barriers, right? And you can have everyone in the same environment, and that is regulated, let's see, for other rules, right? And you also have economics, finances, you have all these other rules that are from the real environment working over there, but you also can create new ones. So that's the thing. And the idea of the metaverse is that you can connect with any people, um, doesn't matter where they are, no matter where they are. And that's the concept of it is very interesting. The actual um, execution of that, it's a little bit hard, right? Because it requires people to have headsets, good internet, to know how to use it, to know how to use the apps, and all each of these things I listed is a barrier that you leave behind a lot of people. So that's why it's a slow, adoption of that. And there are also, psychological and social aspects related to that. So do you want to know someone that you have never met before and start chatting with this person just because you're in VR? Would you do that in real life, like you're just walking your dog? Would you stop and talk with anyone you meet on the street? So those are those behaviors that we still keep them. So it's not just being in VR means that I will talk with everyone and make friends with everyone. It's We still have that rules. So learning in the metaverse, when we hear that, what we want to say, or at least what it's implicit in there, is that you can just remove those geographical barriers, physics barriers, and you can create a simulated environment that will better show process for the students, for example, that allow them to visualize processes, complex processes better. So, for example, ocean acidification is a process that takes long, many years to see an effect on the ocean. And because of that, so it's more difficult to understand than processes that are easy to grasp, right? If you have some baking soda and put some vinegar, you are going to see the bubbles right immediately. So you can understand that better. But if you have the ocean absorbing CO2, taking so long, decades, to have an effect on the animals, people might think like that's not a significant effect. Um, but you can then speed up that process and view a systemic consequence of the process in the environment, for example. So, and you can do that together. You can do that with friends. So that's one of the studies that we conducted here. We had groups of 7, 6, 7, 8 students working together, feeling that they were underwater, building together a reef. And we found that collect, collaboration in VR, the metaverse, right? So that was more beneficial for learning than just learning about the ocean environment.
All right. Anna, when we talk metaverse, specifically in with respect to the learning and education, which company do you consider is doing the great stuff and doing successfully in the immersive space? There are a lot of companies, especially Facebook, since they call themselves as Meta, they claim this space. So, which companies would you present as so far successful companies in the immersive space with
Mhm.
this? And I have also seen that there is one US based company who is establishing metaversities. They introduced the word metaversity. I
Mhm.
know there is a company, um, Victriasar,
Mhm.
and they have implemented all the metaversity on the Morehouse College. Dr. Mohsena is, leading that university. So which company you consider successful in immersive space?
There are several ones. So Meta is, developing and bringing innovation to the area. Apple, HTC, Pico, and there are companies more focused on content, right? These four I just mentioned, they are focused on hardware as well, of course, on content too, but they are also pushing the development on the hardware side. Um, we have companies that are more focused on applications, such the one you just mentioned. Um, we have Striver, that's a company for focused on workforce training, leading this type of application. For example, there are companies focused on special education, such as Florio, and several others. So it depends on their focus, and what is nice is that each one they are have different focus, and in general we are leveraging the field of immersive technologies as a whole, because to adopt VR you need good content and you need good hardware. So those are, for example, the ones that I think they are leading the market right now. And you have other companies that they are working on, the components of the headset, for example, Nvidia, Lenovo, and Lenovo is also developing great headsets as well. So
All right. Anna, when we talk on the immersive learning space or metaverse, every space or every industry has an ecosystem. So when we talk on the metaverse or immersive learning space, can you please define the basic components of this immersive space and metaverse? For example, there are hardware companies, there are content companies, there are other companies. So can you please tell about the basic organs and basic components of this overall ecosystem?
mhm.
And yeah.
Yeah, so for example, if you want to have students in the same environment and you want to create a digital twin, so a digital copy of your class, or you want to create a simulation, you need a platform that will work on different types of headsets. You don't want that um, platform to work only in one specific type of headset. So it's very important that this technology, this platform is um, cross hardware, like you can use different devices, you can use your computer to access it, because I will give you one example for you. When the pandemic hit, we had here at Stanford several programs where we had industry people coming to Stanford to learn from Stanford professors about different areas like AI, finance, logistics, engineering, computer science, social sciences. And the pandemic hit, they couldn't fly here to come here and have the experiences. So what we planned was, well, let's have a VR experience. Let's put them all together in a VR environment so they feel that they are at Stanford. We can build a replica of the campus, a classroom. We put them there. And we had participants from China, Japan, India, Latin America, Canada, Europe. So what was the first barrier we faced? Most of the platforms would work specifically with one type of headset and won't work on computers like Mac computers, for example, Apple computers. So it took a couple of months for companies to develop platforms that would work across all different devices on the phone, on a computer, either it was a PC or Apple. Um, and now we have several of them working like that. So, for example, one platform we use a lot in the lab is the Engage VR, and you can access the virtual environment through your phone, on your computer, PC or Apple, on different types of headset. So that allow, participants that are in different countries that have access to different devices to really join the class together in the virtual environment.
All right, very interesting and very insightful. Anna, when we talk on the immersive space and the overall ecosystem, so far as per your experience, your observations, and as per the data, what are the biggest challenges in immersive space and this immersive and metaversive ecosystem? For example, is that adoption? Is that that content developers and content suppliers are not available? Is that trainers are not available? Cheap headsets are not available, or immersive platforms are not available? What are the biggest challenges, and what is the solution?
Yeah. So I think some challenges, they are hand to hand, like they are together. So, for example, imagine that tomorrow headsets cost $5, very cheap. Anyone could buy them, but there are not enough content. People would use that for a couple of times and then leave it, right? Look at your phone. What do you use on your phone? If you could do exactly everything you do with your phone in VR, and that would cost $10. So now we are talking about, um, content and price together. Would you use more the VR headset? You probably would, but you also want to have this flexibility that Apple is bringing now with the headset, that Meta also is focusing on. All the industry is focusing on having this fast change from completely blocking the real environment to being able to get back to the real environment very soon, very fast, because in reality you can't block everything for many hours. You can block it for maybe half an hour, maybe 1 hour, but then you have to go back, right? So if the device can do that very quickly, very easily, you don't need to follow many steps or have specific knowledge to do that, then adoption will increase. I always say that I can see VR, AR, like immersive technology in general, moving through, like, if you have like regular glasses and thus have everything, like it can becomes dark and create a more immersive environment. It adds digital content. It's paired with your computer, it's paired with your phone, it's very easy to use. When we reach that point, then adoption will be much bigger than it is nowadays.
All right. Uh, Anna, are there any learning platforms you could refer as a food for thought or as a model for all those people who want to jump into this immersive space as a learner, as an educator, or as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, so for example, if you go to Engage VR, they have several sessions that you can join for free, environments that you can explore. Um, there are some very good 360 content videos from Nat Geo, for example, that you can even watch on your phone and put your phone on those, adapters to create a more immersive experience. They are very helpful. Many teachers are using that. although they are not a full immersive VR experience.
All right. Uh, Last question, Anna. You know that nowadays everybody is talking about the AI, generative AI. I don't know if you have seen the pitch of the Google CEO, Sundar Pichai, who was pitching somewhere, who was briefing somewhere, and he was somebody made a short clip of that whole conference.
Mm-hmm.
He mentioned the word AI and generative AI many times. AI, generative AI, generative AI, generative AI.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, how AI and generative AI could be integrated in the immersive space to
Mm-hmm.
make the learning more better? Even give some
Yeah.
examples.
Sure, several ways. So, one, for example, there are several apps right now that use AI to help you develop VR experiences to create, you can type, please give me a 360 degrees picture of, pleasant afternoon at the beach with a table with whatever you want there, and then it will create a 360 image for you. For example, it can help you create 3D models. It can help you on the coding for developing VR experience. You can ask ChatGPT to create a VR script for you. So if you want to develop, a story to help you learn, let's talk about I don't know, birds, and then it can just write a script of what would be an interesting VR experience. um, Also, in the VR experience, there are some companies, for example, Engage already has it. They have you can embed ChatGPT or other generative AI, text and speech based, in the VR experience, so you can interact with an avatar that will answer your questions based on generative AI content, for example. So many ways that generative AI and AI in general has been used in VR.
All right. Uh, really, thank you so much, Anna. All the conversation was really insightful, and I am sure that my audience will be learning a lot from this content. It's really enriched content on immersive technologies topic and education. So in the last is not the question, but I ask this every guest that come to my show. Can you please give any inspiring message or any advice to my audience that includes, potential entrepreneurs, startup founders, university students, teachers, and business community? Any message?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, technology is evolving so fast. I know it's a cliche, but think about, what would you do that you can't do right now, but you would love to do, and how would you do that in VR? So, so that's when that's what we are most excited about, immersive technologies. You can do things that you can't in real life. So, what would you do? What and how it would affect your learning or your business if you could have this mind blowing experience?